In my last video, I shared my thoughts on the voyage at Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana. I said how this ride was one of the best coasters out there, but it personally wasn't for me. However, there was one coaster just a short walk away that did not disappoint me, and in fact blew my expectations out of the water. And this is the Legend. The Legend is manufactured by Custom Coasters International, or as you guys probably know them as CCI. Now before riding the Legend, this was my first true CCI. The only other one I've done at the time was Ghost Rider Knott's Berry Farm, which when I rode it was completely retracked by GCI and had different trains. So the Legend was my first true CCI. And the experience, it did not disappoint. My first ride was towards the back of the train, and at first I wasn't really looking forward to this ride. I knew it was going to be good, but for those who don't know, Legend isn't really like other wooden coasters where its focus is on airtime or twisting around itself. Legend is all about the laterals. Laterals are forces which slam you to the side of the train, and that is all the Legend is focused on. This ride really only has 2 solid moments of airtime throughout the entire ride. After my first ride, I enjoyed the Legend more than I thought, but it personally wasn't my favorite. It wasn't until my night rides and the rides I got on the next day, those were the ones that really solidified the Legend as a top tier wooden coaster. When you board the train, you enter your PTC cars and pull down your restraint and dispatch out of the station. After a small pre-section, you climb the 99-foot lift hill, and when you get to the top, you hear a howl, which is a nice little touch that I really appreciate Holiday World making, and you then descend the 113-foot drop. So the reason why the drop is bigger than the lift is because Holiday World is built on a hill. So even when you're walking around the park, you are walking up and down hills. So let me just say this drop's a weird one. It definitely isn't like any other drop I've experienced. It does twist as it descends, but it isn't banked. So you get laterals going down, and if you're sitting in the back, you get some good floater airtime going down this drop. I was able to get 11 total rides on Legend throughout my 2 days at the park. 2 of those rides were in the front, 2 of them were in the middle, and the rest were towards the back. Because personally, for me, Legend is definitely a back row coaster. However, there are some elements in the front row that I do prefer over the back. So in the back, you get a little bit of floater as you are slowly getting pinned to the side of the car, so it's a pretty interesting drop. After this, you are going to dive into a tunnel and twist up, getting some good laterals, and then right after, you are going to twist to the right down a small drop and get some more laterals as you head up into the turnaround. Now this first section really doesn't mess around with the laterals, especially right after the small drop. It really pushes you against the car, and you are hauling throughout this entire section. When you get to the top of the hill, you dive down into a turnaround, and if you are in the back, you are going to get some crazy lateral forces going down this turnaround. Definitely one of the stronger moments on the ride. After this, you're going to enter my personal favorite part of the ride, and this is the speed hill. You get a strong pop of flow ejector airtime going over this element, and after this, you enter a large floater hill. If you're sitting in the front, you'll get some good flow ejector going over it, while if you're in the back, you'll get some good floater going down the drop. This is easily the best element in the front row. After this hill, you dive down into your second tunnel, twisting to the right, and shortly after this, you'll twist to the left and get prepared for the wildest moment on the ride, and this is the unbanked double helix. Enthusiasts know where I'm going with this one. If you're on a train on the Legend full of enthusiasts, as you're getting ready to enter the double helix, the whole train will start to get excited. After this hill, you dive down into a third tunnel, and you enter the helix. In this helix, you are consistently going up and down to 3 airtime hills. The craziest part of this element is definitely the part after the last tunnel on the helix, when it goes through an unbanked speed hill. You don't really get airtime, but you get enough to slightly lift you out of your seat. But since you're twisting through this unbanked turn really fast, you are pinned to the side of your seat and you can't resist it at all. It is absolutely insane. This little speed hill was definitely one of the highlights for me. After this, the grand finale of the ride begins. You go through another tiny little speed hill and twist to the right, and you dive down a tiny drop, head up and twist to the left, dive down another small drop, and do a quick turnaround to the right before slamming into the brakes. And this grand finale is insane. You don't really get airtime on the drops, which was disappointing to me, but each one of the twists give great laterals, especially on the final turnaround. Now, similar to the Voyage, this ride is non-stop action from the drop all the way to the final brake run, especially at night. Since most of the ride is tucked back away in the woods and you can't see anything, it really adds on to the thrill. Because during the day, you can brace for the lateral since you see them coming. But at night, since you can't see anything at all, you don't know what's coming next. Plus, this ride is really long, so it's pretty hard to memorize the layout piece by piece. Now, I would also suggest riding this ride later in the day. Towards the morning, it can run slow. I got one of the first rides of the day, and I noticed a good 5 to 6 mile per hour difference between the first ride of the day and the last ride of the night. This thing hauls. Another thing to add on is this ride is surprisingly smooth. About 4 years ago, GCI came in and retracked the entire ride similar to Ghost Rider. However, they didn't add Millennium Flyers, they kept the PTC trains, which I think is a good thing. But one thing I will say is this ride has a couple potholes. The most notable one being at the bottom of the first speed hill. This part gives a nasty jolt when you slam back into your seat. But luckily it's pretty short, so it isn't that bad, but it is definitely noticeable. Other than that, for a 20-plus-year-old wooden coaster, it runs great. I'm not saying it's the smoothest ride on earth, but as I just said, for a 20-year-old wooden coaster, it's pretty good. Honestly, even if you're someone who adores airtime and find laterals annoying like myself, you'll still love the Legend. After thinking about it for a long time, I know I said in my last video that the Voyage is my favorite ride at Holiday World, but after some deep thinking, I've decided that the Legend is just a little bit more enjoyable and more fun in my opinion. I had very low expectations for this Woody, and once I came off, I was pleasantly surprised. I rode this more on my trip to Holiday World than any other ride in the park. However, it's definitely not a ride you can marathon. I usually rode this 2 times in a row, took a break on another coaster like the Raven, got a stop at the Oasis station, and came back. The most I rode this in a row was 3, and I was absolutely drained after my 3rd ride. I even laid my hoodie down on the walkways and lied flat on my back because of how much this ride really took out of you. In the end, I really enjoyed the Legend. It is my favorite ride at Holiday World, but it still isn't my favorite Woody. That still goes to Ghost Rider and Knott's. But I do highly suggest you make a trip out to Holiday World, not only for the Voyage, but for the Legend. And the other Woody, which we will talk about in my next video, the Raven. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review of the Legend at Holiday World. Let me know what you guys think of this iconic wooden coaster in the comment section down below, and don't forget to check out my merchandise and my podcast On the Hunt in the description down below. And also, don't forget to subscribe. I would really appreciate it as it is the best way to help the channel. And check out my second channel, TPH Productions, for copyright-free off-rides and POVs. As always, this is Hunter from Theme Park Hunting. I'll see you guys later, and follow the thrill.